So there's something I wanted to share with you about how you're supposed to choose a spouse as as anyone really. But one of the main things in the West that we try to do is we try to find someone who has strengths where we're weak, so that it kind of feeds our ego. And what happens is after a while it becomes toxic, because in the West our parents don't help us and say, hey, this is how you should get a wife, or this is what you should look for. You just kind of based on feelings, and if it feels nice, like a Disney story. But basically, from my research, the countries that practice family traditional framework, what they do is they basically find a spouse. They help their child, their son or their daughter, to find someone in their community who basically has the same work, the same um, religion, and the same overall work ethic, and maybe even education or social status. And basically, what I look at it is like holding up a mirror to yourself, and you want to find someone exactly like you, but as opposite gender. So I wrote down how you do it, right? I wrote down my findings here. So basically, I wrote um, a man should look for an equal, as the West says. However, it should be in caste, social, financial, religion, as a traditional arranged marriage. Cultures know so well the boy and girl, son or daughter, are basically merging two families. Therefore, they should be compatible as possible to avoid future strife or toxicity. The two families can be from the same tribe, caste, work, social class, religion, even work setting and path, and in fact are very much encouraged to look for exact similarities in the aforementioned boxes. This is explained in the fact that in the beginning families were basically extensions of itself. For the purpose of the writing, I should add, marrying first cousins or brothers has been removed from the arranged traditional marriage in most tribes due to the individualistic and selfish nature that comes with that from the hoarding of resources, like seen in the elite satanic families of Europe, example the Red Shields banking empire. However, the idea remains the same: create a family that can unite for the purpose of success and unity. This also goes as far in the face of modern Western dating theology that they don't always marry due to sexual chemistry. To explain why they don't marry for sexual desire is best understood by flipping the family's choice for the son and daughter choices. Oftentimes, like they would in the West, young men choose young women who has qualities, characteristics, and family that is lower class or higher, basically choosing a wrong choice in the eyes of the traditional arranged family module. This is done to cause underlying strife or tension among the pair that stirs up desire sexually and allows the young man to boost his ego by marrying someone who is gifted where he is weak. Example, she is sexually a kitten who is always ready to play, good or bad. This covers his own past lack of confidence with the opposite gender based on the fact he has been victimized by society growing up in a predatory system. Those in Africa were brought up in a less sexually immoral environment and therefore do not carry large amounts of ego to cope with the unconfidence. That is why they can gladly choose their equal who shares common gifts and challenges. This is best understood when you see two young Indian couples. They often look awkwardly similar or even attached as if they were siblings, conquering the challenges of the world together. They were not brought together to cover each other's weaknesses. They were in fact chosen based on character similarities, even strengths and weaknesses. Subconsciously, these unions often last long and produce much fruit. Due to the continuity of the bond, like an electrical circuit that doesn't face resistance. The African culture has such a good understanding of the Indian dubbed caste system that they will even have a concubine if they are successful enough to or a side chick who they use for ego boost if they are not morally mature. Example, Americans or modernized Africans. This makes use of both the West system and framed family system by understanding the two very well. In conclusion, if your goal is a healthy, long-lasting, godly union in marriage to produce much children and success in your home, you choosing someone in your ego to temporarily cover up your weaknesses by finding someone who is strong where you are weak actually causes foreseen instabilities among the matching pair and their respective families. Not impossible, but very unstable when you compare the available data using the West as an example of the ego-driven dating in Africa, Arab, Indian, and some Asian family arranged chosen partnership marriage family model. On one side, you have large families, religion, union, and have maintained this framework, where the other model option you see sky-high divorce and female-dominated society. So this shows that dating based on emotions and ego results in the man or men of the country losing their power and being lowered to a working warring class of the citizen, where the women make most decisions for society given their higher societal status. In conclusion, choose your wife and her family as if you were holding a mirror up to you and your own family. It might be very humbling if you are born and raised in America. However, it will save you a lot of strife fighting her and her family, divorce, etc. If you allow more peace in you work, it won't be consumed by another man. I was contemplating the concept of marriage to African spouse by a Western man, and looking at the data, it shows most times the regrets are either two things: a woman with a poor family who begs alms always, and a modern woman who out-hustles the man and leaves her provider. I think the aforementioned family arranged wife choice solves both extremes by choosing someone who is more predictable for you. Another issue with marrying out of or for ego is that when your wife or girlfriend is strong where you are weak, it can easily stir up negative and weakness down the line. For example, you dating an easy lover when you are stubborn, unfamiliar boss type is that the moment she misplaces her attention for another person, a man, you feel the deep inadequacy of your own weakness. Again, it shows this stirs up desire for revenge, for sex, etc. However, these are energy wasting in vain, only causing damage to the person in relationship. When therefore you look at someone who feels the same way about sex as you, then you know the attention she, your wife or girlfriend, gives the person, man, is about your strengths and weaknesses. This again goes back to the concubine method in medieval times. If the girl's main quality was stirring up easy desire and came from a lower caste than the more successful and wealthy, powerful man spouse, he would not allot her the same rights as his main, equally yoked wife. It was basically a slave class used to further the man's or king's lineage. Also, serving his more deserving ego. That is why the world sees Western men as weak, because they treat and allot every woman as an equal without understanding the class and caste system, and therefore not being able to control or lead his society in a more progressive manner when looking at it in a mating and genetical progression view. Without tribes and castes, the framework of traditional family is but lost. All this being said, many modern young men, even from these lands of traditional families, are forsaking marriage for the modern American model or a hybrid taken from their knowledge of the framework of their forefathers because of the waywardness and hypergamous nature of modern women. How society has allotted these women with less societal and familiar socially consequences for infidelity both in and outside the home. Imagine the Western woman working and being single without a husband and choosing chasing the small percent of men who are superior to her while sharing that man with every other woman. The reason it is humbling to marry is because the protections for men in marriage and society are becoming less and less as the world progresses. Some of the only protections are hidden in far-off land to foreign Western men with traditional family structural framework that can be implemented and cemented into the man's soul, but to try to fight to uphold in a society hell-bent on plowing over to build a parking lot. So if that man is already holding on to what he believes is right, then he should be able to add another front to his holy war. A very necessary soldier he would be considered to the outsiders and watchers. Not only would he be standing for his family, he would also be standing for society and humanity.